Good evening, race fans, and welcome back to TRTM for tonight's coverage of Round 2 of the Shooting Stars Cup by Race Club UK. As always, I'm Regan Clark. You join us here at one of four of the holiest of venues opened in the 1920s. The Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps opened in 1921. Comprised of 20 turns and 4.3 miles of FIA Grade 1 in the modern day, it's the largest Grade 1 circuit ever constructed, and as I mentioned, it was part of a Holy Four to be introduced in the decade of the 1920s, with this being the first chapter. The year thereafter saw the introduction of the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza in 1922, the year thereafter the Circuit de la Sarthe in 1923, and in 1927, the Nürburgring, making four of the most influential venues in European motorsports history. It's the de facto hub of the Belgian Grand Prix, having traded its position over the course of the last 101 years with its little brother, the Circuit Zolder. Otherwise, it's the central hub for all things endurance racing in the Benelux region, seeing endurance racing from the Intercontinental GT Challenges Spa 24 Hours, which has ran on the mark since 1924, some 102 years ago, the FIA World Endurance Championships 6 Hours of Spa that has ran since 1953, with a more consistent basis from 1963 onwards, the FIM Endurance World Championships 8 Hours of Spa Motos that has ran on and off since 1973, and the European Le Mans Series is 4 Hours of Spa, which has ran since 2004. This circuit is one of Leviathan proportions, the largest Grade 1 circuit in the world. This is a true monolith to motorsport here. Sacrilege, holy ground for round 2 of this championship. We're on board at the moment with Benjamin Rook in the number 14 Simplay Motorsports Lamborghini, but let's get a look into where we've come so far, trailing away from the opening round of the championship at the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo Itino Ferrari. Taking a look at the championship standings whilst we stay on board here with Rook, we find ourselves in the current following. Fate Galaxy in the lead of the championship with 450 points, with Joseph St. Ludovic, formerly Francois St. Ludovic, with 435 points in second place. Wishful Winnings marks third with a Ford 2, 3 and 4, 420 points for Winnings, and then Solomon Bosworth fourth place with 395. In fifth place, Richard Hall with Chris Leish behind in sixth. Chris Clements in seventh with Ben Godden in eighth place with 335 points. You'll note much more variety in terms of that scoring structure. Very bizarre one we see for this championship. Ninth place for Roel Hermsen, and then 10th place for William Cairns. In terms of how that affects the team's championship standings, taking a look into that, it's Race Club UK leading by a landslide, 1,010-point lead over VSR in second, with Simplay in third, and America's Racing League in fourth. Taking a look at the regulations for today's round of the championship. Taking a look here, we're back on the same format that we introduced the series with back in Imola. So we're in the final 10 minutes at the moment of free practice. Coming up is 15 minutes of qualifying and 90 minutes of racing. 2 mandatory pit stops for both fuel and tyres. Of course, this championship is in sort of awareness and raising funds toward that of the Shooting Stars Children's Hospice. You can see here, Shooting Stars Children's Hospice provides specialist care and support to families who have a baby, child or young person with a life-limiting condition or whose child has died. Their purpose is simple but powerful: to help every family make every moment count. Their care is available 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, supporting over 1,000 families and more than 2,000 individuals, including siblings, parents and grandparents. If you're watching on Twitch, you'll just notice now, having been put into the chat, the Just Giving link for the Shooting Stars Cup. We've already raised £600, with 60% of the way to the goal to raising £1,000 for this wonderful, wonderful charity. If you're tuning in on YouTube, it'll be in the video description. Getting a look then into today's session as we go back onto the field here in the trailing end of free practice. We cut away from Ben Rook to get on board with the Jackal from Team ARL on his way down through La Source. 5 minutes left to go then in free practice before we get into the scope of round 2's qualifying. But before we do, let's get a look at balance of performance courtesy of LFM. Well, getting a look into it, it's 30 kilos off for Ferrari's 488 GT3 Evo, with Bentley losing 21 kilos, Honda losing 20, and Mercedes losing 10. Lamborghini lose 5 kilos, Ford are net neutral, but have a 20% restrictor in place over their engine, limiting power to only 80% total output. Aston Martin on our screens at the moment, courtesy of the 999 ARL Aston Martin of the Jackal, as we see here making his way down the Kemmel straight down to Lacombe, and Melmedy gains only a single kilo. And that pales to what Porsche's got with 3 kilos on. BMW with 6, Nissan and McLaren with 9 kilos on board, but it's Ferrari to the short end of the stick with a whopping 24 kilo ballast coming in to this round of the championship. So Ferrari comprising the front and back of improvement and detriment in the BOP listings for today. So taking a look away from BOP, to get a look onto the timing charts here, Jackal currently 28th of a currently 32 car grid. It's Carlos Dish at the forefront of action, Ben Rook second, and Francois now Joseph Sanludovic in the 99, third fastest. Wishful Winnings fourth, and William Cairns in fifth. We see here with Matthias Claes in 6th place ahead of Roll Hermsen in 7th, Lars Rammensperger in 8th with Lee Evans 9th, and Wright rounds out the top 10. So coming into this round of the championship, of course, marks the halfway point. Only 2 more rounds left to go after today, where we will be heading to Brands Hatch and the Mount Panorama circuit. 2 wonderful circuits indeed to cap the season off with. As we get to the halfway mark, though, there is great concern amongst the talks of the team's championship. A gap so monstrously large between the leading pair at the moment, with Race Club UK leading with 1,010 points over that of VSR. It's going to take a lot in this round to put them back in contention when they've already put their best foot forward, with Carlos Dish leading the charge. Of course, it was a VSR driver to win in that last round. Fate Galaxy winning in the number 55 Mercedes in Imola, according to SimGrid. Speaking of that Mercedes, whereabouts is Fate Galaxy is the real question. It appears maybe not on this grid at all. That's certainly going to play a heavy toll on the VSR team. Nonetheless, they've got 2 drivers inside of the top 5, Dish and Winnings, the twin Mustangs 54 and 23, but it's Simplay looking on a real hot streak here in Spa, a circuit that has to be feared and respected before it can ever be mastered, much like another circuit we'll visit in this championship, the Mount Panorama circuit at the season finale. And as it appears, Fate Galaxy is having video memory issues, as per reports there from Wishful Winnings, currently in the paddock. 4th fastest in the session so far. Now, there were some pressing fears coming into this event with a grid this large and a circuit this large as well, as this is not our first rodeo at the circuit de Spa-Francorchamps on a big grid. This is a pressing issue, and for the Series S participants, ourselves included, and we joined early on to make sure we could secure a spot in the server, it is a great concern now with the grid this large, because how the game operates, unlike PC. Now, this is what I was told after research following another event that sadly was forced to be suspended for coverage by us right here in Spa. It was a case where we can't chunk render parts of the track and only a number of the cars on circuit. For console, you're rendering absolutely everything up front. So all of this circuit, bear in mind, largest FIA Grade 1 circuit in circulation. This is no Brands Hatch. This is a big, big circuit we're dealing with here. And something north of 30 cars, it's a lot to demand there on the Series S, which is only really just straggling above the basic line set from the previous generation Xbox One consoles. So it does create itself a very troublesome issue, which is why we must also make a discretionary here. This stream possibly could go under at any point. Now, I'm only saying that in the cadence, the way I'm saying it at the moment is because really I lack the words to say it professionally. This stream, and for that matter anyone's game here if they're playing on the Series S, can go under at any point. Hopefully it doesn't, you know, hopefully it doesn't. You know, we want to remain on the wishful side of things. So whilst we've got the opportunity, let's take a look in here in the trailing end of free practice. This is Roll Hermsen on his way down through to the bus stop chicane. Now, with about a minute left to go here in free practice, let's see if we can go and catch on board with the Audi in the hopes that he might give us one more tour. We might actually get to go on board here with the Jackal instead, with Team ARL's 999 Aston Martin as he makes his way down through La Source. So we'll stay on board with the Jackal here for the tour of the circuit de Spa-Francorchamps right to the end of free practice before 15 minutes of qualifying. We're already out through La Source and up through the most iconic section of Grade 1 tarmac, known the world over, Eau Rouge and Radion. This perilous ascent uphill takes us up through turns 3, 4, and 5, out through turn 6 now as we enter the Kemmel Straight, which has been the site of many a famous overtake in the world of Formula 1. It may very well be the site of plenty of overtakes here in round 2 of the Shooting Stars Cup, down through to Lacombe and Melmedy. So you see slowing down rather rapidly here appears to be the Jackal. And the exit of Melmedy down through to Bruxelles at turn 10. In towards Rivage at turn 11 here, sometimes also called the no-name corner. You see for the Jackal, taking things nice and smooth on his run down through to Puon, an area of the track that can be taken flat out by Formula One machines of the last couple of years. Though I can't say in great confidence they'll be taken flat out by this year's ones. On his way out through turn 12 in towards turn 13 and 14 on the run down towards campus. You see here a little bit of struggle for understeer with the Aston Martin, but nonetheless getting himself through campus at turn 14 into Stavelo at turn 15. Behind him there we see Chris Clements in the number 15 Race Club UK BMW. We're at the end of free practice here on the run round the Kerber Paul Frere with the hopes that we will be able to see the end of this lap. I think it all just teeters now on that number 6, so we might have to go around this a second time. Ian Oates on his way through the run of Puon. We're here at Blanchemont on the run down through turns 17 and 18 on the run down to the bus stop chicane at turns 19 and 20 to cap off this circuit. This will be a major overtaking spot coming up here for the Aston Martin down through to turn 19 and 20 we see here at the end of what is a flying lap. Now the finish line is right here after turn 20, but the starting line will be after turn 1 on the run down parallel to the GT paddock. So ending that session there, 29th for the Jackal. We'll be waiting to see what the grid's looking like when we go into qualifying. 15 minutes of quali to follow here. And I think the only car we're waiting to see as we see a stacked out paddock here is the number 6 of Ian Oates with Team VSR. Making his way out through Blanchemont then, and getting a look with the telemetry on board with Oates. We find that he's about a 10th down here. He could salvage this one on the run down through turn 19 and 20, and it does look to be a confident start to the complex here at the bus stop chicane, but out through, it's just a little too late. They're off by about a 10th of a second as he gets to the line. So 15 minutes of qualifying here in the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. We see a very lively grid then getting its way out onto the track. And I believe they're leading that charge, yes, is Ian McGowan in the number 664. I don't know where the number 2 come from at all. Number 664 leading out the charge then. Carlos Deesh, we're on board with at the moment with Team VSR, is right up his backside on the Kemmel Straight. He's looking to get things up at the forefront of the pack. Behind them, we see, as well as James Burns and Wright, that's Race Club UK and Team ARL getting their first foot forward into this qualifying session. We see leaping up through Lecom and Melmedy goes Carlos Deesh. So for the Swiss talent here, it's elbows out, and we've not even got into the race yet. He's looking to secure away pole position, sadly, with no comprehensive breakdown of the quali predictions for today. Data was scrambled for us, sadly, so we weren't able to identify any of the drivers from their usernames and times alone, given the time that we had on the run in towards today's race. Just reeling out of our last coverage a few hours ago with the folks over at Competizione Performance League. We went live for the World Series just a few hours ago for round 3 in Imola. We're here for round 2, the Shooting Stars Cup, out through Puon then. But Deesh looking confident that he could claim a pole position today here in Spa. And considering that Ford, all they have to work against is a 20% restrictor and no weight gain, this is somewhat of a blessing in disguise here for the Ford Motor Company. For Carlos Deesh, this is a driver who is very much so aware of this vehicle. He's very well acquainted with the Mustang, drives it over a number of different championships. We've also seen his talents over at Aston Martin for some time as well. We'll catch on board, though, here with Deesh to be the first flying lap of today, so we'll stay on board with him, making his way down towards the bus stop chicane. Now, these times are going to roll in thick and fast, so it's going to be very difficult to track, so you will have to bear with us here on this opening flurry. So across the line we go, just over 12 minutes 50 left to go in the session. We're on to the first of our flying laps, courtesy of Carlos Deesh. So the opening flurry of times is as follows: Deesh, McGowan, Burns, Wright, Rook. That's your top 5. You see joining us in chat there, Beto 2010. Good evening to you. Join us here just a few minutes into the quali session on the run uphill through Eau Rouge and Radion, on with the leading car of the pack here, first to set a time by looks of things at the moment. Sadly, telemetry not giving us anything much to speak of, but we're on board with the 54 of Carlos Deesh. It's a bit of a wiry run up through Eau Rouge and Radion. Now, track limits could be a major concern over the course of this session. And that could even pile on into the hour and a half's worth of racing we've got set to follow after this quali session. 12 minutes then left to go. And a lively first sector then by Carlos Dietsch on the run down towards Bruxelles at turn 10. We made a bit of a clerical error earlier calling the turn 11 Rivage. That's actually the alternate name for turn 10. This is just the no-name corner. Otherwise, having a name would be somewhat paradoxical to it. Down towards turn 12 we go at Pouhon. Light lift on the throttle there. Tiny little dab on the brakes. Keeping things very momentum heavy into sector 2. And he needs every reason to do so. He's working with 20% less of an engine. Now, for those of you who might be a little confused over some of the terminology with the restrictor in place, what it means is engine power is restricted by 20%. So it's only producing about 80% of roughly what it should produce from the factory. Think of it, because it's a V8 engine as well, if you really want to go in layman's, think of it as they basically turned 2 of the cylinders off and this is a glorified V6. And as we've seen, V6s can be a punchy variety. Down towards the line then, turn 19 and 20. Carlos Dietsch, the first time onto the charts, but with that run out of Eau Rouge and Radeon, could that be to a first legitimate time on the charts? We'll come to see, though. The 54 down to the line, out of turn 20. Comes Carlos Dietsch across the line, and it was invalidated. So across the line, it'll be McGowan, the first among the fray. Then following on from behind, Burns second. Then to the line there, right in second now. He's the third to have crossed the line. We see RCUK now fastest with Simplay Motorsport. Hjalmar Bergsma was momentarily in the top 5, but Lars Rammensberger says otherwise. William Cairns to 4th, was momentarily 3rd. Wish for Winnings now 4th, momentarily 3rd, as we see Matthias Claes across the line in the 442 McLaren. Seeing the times come rolling in. Tom Hacker, 7th place. Pedro Barros momentarily in 9th, now in the back of the top 10. Francois Saint-Ludovic in 7th place. Now seems to be going by Joseph Saint-Ludovic, so take of that what you will. As it stands then, Simplay have locked out the top 3. Ben RCUK, Matthias Claes and Ian McGowan. 2 McLarens and a Lamborghini. Never had I thought I'd seen the day Lamborghini dominate the way that they do here in Spa, but of course never say never on that prospect from Carlos Dietsch. We see here with the first among the fray of the VSR cars there, and Wish for Winnings 4th in the session. Fastest of the Race Club UK cars at the moment, Lars Rammensberger, and then down for Team ARL is Wright in the number 540 Lamborghini. Number 5 and number 444 across the line. We saw for Roel Hermsen. Race Club UK now up to the top 3, courtesy of the number 5 Audi R8. Next to the line, the 444. So, believe here comes, yes, that was Lee Evans with Nissan. 9th place. Nearest to the line, number 60 coming to the line. The number 60, Steve McMillan, sadly an invalid time. So he's on to another flying lap. We see here with David Bender to the line from 29th. Across the line he goes. Sadly to no time. Number 12 and number 6 onto the charts there. That was for Ben Bingham. And the number 6 there of Ian Oates. We saw on the trailing end of free practice. He's 17 for the end of that first flying lap. Number 81 across the line a moment ago. And that was for, looking here, I think this is Alonso Amador in the number 81. Just getting a look in here. Yes, that is the case. He's 25th at the moment, up and ahead of Bingham, but behind Nick Lamming. A whole swarm of cars coming in, so get ready for way more times onto the charts. Right up into the top 5 there for Team ARL. But it's still a 1-2 by Simplace, RCUK and Claes at the front of the field. Roel Hermsen holds on the 3rd for the time being. We can see just how close things are getting. McGowan and Wright are only 3 thousandths apart as it stands there from 4th and 5th place. Just under 8 minutes left to go. Number 4 coming to the line. And across the line a moment ago, Sean McNally, 17th, number 442, nearby to the line. We'll try and catch on with them. Though I fear we may have been just a little too late to catch them there. 442, Claes across the line, stays second fastest. Number 44, number 404, number 100, and number 111 coming to the line. Number 404 we saw there. I believe this is with Martins. Yes. And with the 404... And this is with Andre Martins just at the back of that top 20 for Team ARL. I believe ran a different livery in Imola. It was a black and gold livery, now on with the proper Team ARL colours for this round of the championship. So as it stands, just under 7 minutes left to go. Ben Rook leading this session. Lamborghini fastest, 2:17.5.11. Then Matthias Claes in second. Roll Hermsen third. And then Wright in fourth. Ian McGowan marks the back of that top 5. One of the first cars out among the fray. Now, speaking of one of the first cars out among the fray, I am rather curious to see that there is yet no time set for Carlos Disch. Plenty of drivers still yet to put times on the charts there. Angeletta, McMillan, as I say that, McMillan just has put a time on the chart there. Steve McMillan to 23rd. Antonio Angeletta yet to have set a time. Number 6 coming to the line. We'll catch on board here with Ian Oates from 19th on the field. As he crosses the line, he's up to 16th there, up and ahead of Nico Prince and James Burns. Number 81 and looking there, number 61, I believe, is coming to the line. So actually for the 61, that would be, yes, Kieran Rodd with VSR. He's about to set a time here by looks of things. Across the line he goes, sadly not this time. Number 14 nearest to the line. We try to go and catch on board here with Ben Rook. Can it be an extension over his fastest? Not as it appears there. 2:17.5.11, still the fastest time. Number 51 nearby to the line. And across the line, Rammensberger to 4th. Then across the line a moment ago, 185. Pedro Barros, 6th with Bentley and Race Club UK. It's a curious sign to always see the Bentley on this grid. Number 4 across the line, Sean McNally 18th. Number 442 coming in. So here comes Claes with Simplay. I mean, they've got the top 3 locked out once again. McGowan marking the back of that top 3. The leading pair of Rook and Claes still ultra close to one another at this leg of qualifying. Matthias Claes then starting another flying lap. 5 minutes left to go. 1:11 across the line a moment ago, and that was for looking here with Richard Hall. 9th fastest in the session, so up and ahead of Winnings there to force him to the back of the top 10. Number 32 coming to the line. I believe that is for Lewis Perslow. Across the line a moment ago, yes it was, and Perslow 20th. Number 54 looks to be in trouble here, and that, yes, is Carlos Disch. A very confusing state of affairs here for Carlos Disch. Fumbled at the last hurdle of that last lap because that was otherwise a valid lap for him. As you can see, 14.9 seconds off the mark. We see recently there for McMillan, I believe, is up a position as he crossed the line. No, so it wasn't for him. I believe it was for, yes, Craig Stoddard with the 169 Simplay. So McMillan down a position from 25th. Number 5, number 88, number 23, number 60, number 15, and number 420 all coming to the line here. So a whole swarm of cars coming in. We've been watching on board here with the 169. Number 420 across the line a moment ago. That was for, as it stands there, James Burns. And a unique pick there with Honda. Currently just squeezed out of that top 15. Across the line a moment ago went the number 99 and the number 6 for Ian Oates. He's 15th. And then for the, looking there, number 99, you take a look up to Francois St. Ludovic. Currently 4 fastest. Now marking a Simplay 1, 2, 3, and 4. 3.5 minutes left to go then. We're among the final laps here in Quali. Number 61 and number 14 across the line a moment ago. For the 61, that was for, I believe, Kieran Rodd, 24th. Number 14 across the line a moment ago as well. That's the leading car, Benjamin Rook, with Simplay. Up through Eau Rouge and Radion. Lamborghini on top form here. McLaren close by. It's worth pointing out those leading 2 cars separate by less than 0.2 of a second. And when we get into the topic of by within a second to the fastest time, we comprise all of, looking at it here, 12 positions on this grid right now, front to back. So that's from Nico Prince to Ben Rook at the front of the field. Number 101 nearest to the line. That'll be for Tom Hacker from 19th. Across the line he goes. And Hacker now up to 13th. Number 54 near to the line. So this is the one we've been waiting for here out of Carlos Disch. Started the session off strong. It all came apart, though, rather recently. So to the line comes the 54 of Disch from 30th on the field. Leaps up through the order, but to where? It's to pole for the 54. Better late than never. 2 minutes left to go. He's still got one more shot at this. On the run round La Source, he's up over Rook by 0.2 of a second. The heat is on then for Simplay to reclaim pole position, or could it be another possible VSR pole? Number 5 nearby then. We saw the Roll Hermsen was an early leap up through the order. We'll see what he can do here. Race Club UK's number 5 Audi into the line from 7th. 77 thousandths away from 6th place, but bear in mind, his teammate Barros only 100th away. But as it stands, Barros is in the pits and shows no signs of coming back out. Number 15 across the line a moment ago. That was for Chris Clements, 13th fastest. Number 99 coming to the line. We'll go and catch on board here with Francois Saint-Ludovic. On his way to the line, 5th place at the moment across the line, 2nd. It's a Ford 1-2. Simplay now putting the heat onto VSR. There are 187 thousandths out there closing the gap, but Saint-Ludovic won't be the one to spearhead that charge much longer. 540 across the line a moment ago, starting another and final flying lap here for Wright with Team ARL. The only ARL car as it stands then in that top 10. We saw Ben Rook across the line, starting one more flying lap, and on his last one, left a note there, 2:17 for dead. So he is only a single 10th of a second away now from Carlos Disch at the front of the field, but it is worth pointing out both of our leading cars are out on track. It is a shootout here for pole position, but who will it go to? Number 442 to the line. Here comes Matthias Claes. From 4th, stays there, but does find notable improvement. Is dangerously close now to an advance up to possibly 2nd. Is only 92 thousandths away from a front row start. Number 81, number 100 coming to the line as well. So the number 81 across the line a moment ago. That was taking a look down the order there. That was Alonso Amador, 29th on the field. Number 100 from behind them. That was for Antonio Angeletta. Rounds out this session, and it's worth pointing out a unique livery there for Angeletta, the same one he runs over on VSR Season 11. We were live with him earlier this week for coverage of round 2 of the season in Snetterton. It was a fantastic race there. He got himself into a bit of trouble over the run of Snetterton, if I do remember so correctly, but the 100, 24th, at the end of quali. Near to the line, number 23, though it so appears, going very slow at turn 19. We'll have to try and catch on board. I think, was that a disconnect for Angeletta? Oh no, that's horrible timing. Winnings into the pit lane there. 12th fastest, number 5 and number 88 coming in. So here comes Roll Hermsen. From behind him, the 88. And that'll be Hjalmar Bergsma. Hermsen 5th, Bergsma to the line 10th. Number 15, nearest to the line. We'll see if there is a leap to be expected here from Chris Clements. 14th on the grid as he crosses the line, I should say. 8th fastest. 540 nearby. Spearheading the charge for Team ARL inside of that top 10 is Wright in the 540 Lamborghini. We'll see him down to the line here. Down through turn 19 and 20. Dangerously close to a top 10. Can he find it in the trailing end of round 2 quali? Across the line he goes and stays 12th. Number 14, nearest to the line, Ben Rook has had the bar raised up over him there by 893 thousandths. Can he fight it back to the line? Only by a tiny, tiny amount there. Stays in 2nd place as we saw a real jaw dropper from Disch. 2:16.507. Number 12 across the line a moment ago. Ends their qualifying session. The 444 coming to the line. That's for Lee Evans. Up to 16 for the end of quali. 442. Matthias Claes around turn 20. 5 thousandths away from starting on the podium. Across the line he goes in the 442 McLaren. Can he find it? Not this time around. The 664 from behind him. McGowan stays in 6th. Well, what an end to qualifying then. It's VSR on pole, courtesy of Carlos Disch, the 54 fastest in this session by a whopping 836 thousandths of a second. 8 tenths, 300ths, 6 thousandths. The rest of the grid, though, razor thin, tucked in behind one another from 2nd all the way down to 12th. We'll get a full look at the grid in a moment's time. Sadly, no more news to discuss from us today here on the time of recording. We discussed earlier on the recent hubbub surrounding the run into the Japanese Grand Prix. Of course, Andrea Kimi Antonelli on pole with Mercedes. Mercedes has been at the forefront of some recent controversies surrounding their wings, surrounding the timing on their wings as well. They're opening and closing a little later than they're supposed to. Very cheeky, of course. Who would have thought we're, what, 3 rounds in now on the 2026 F1 season, and we're already in the midst of A, a development war, and B, a cheating scandal. You just can't have it any worse than this. Well, having a look into this championship, they couldn't have it any better, because this is looking to be a fantastic grid here for round 2 of the Race Club UK Shooting Stars Cup here at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. We'll get a look through the grid as they form up in a moment's time. Now, to remind you of the regulations at play here for round 2 of the championship, getting a look back in, we're up for 90 minutes of racing with 2 mandatory pit stops for both fuel and tyres. So come to expect those pit stops to come up at around the first 30-minute mark, and then after the next 30-minute mark, making 3 stints of 30 minutes each. So at the hour mark, and then with 30 minutes left to go in this race, that's where we're going to be seeing those 2 pit stops come up. And I remind you, in the Twitch chat, also if you're viewing on YouTube, it'll be available in the video description, but you'll note there the link for the Just Giving page for the Shooting Stars Cup. This is in support of Shooting Stars Children's Hospice. Wonderful, wonderful charity. Currently taking just a quick glance in on the fundraising goal at the moment. We're at £603 sterling, so that's 60% of the way over the course of 29 different supporters to that £1,000 target. All of the proceeds from that go straight to the charity over at Shooting Star Children's Hospices. We'll wait for that grid to form up then as we see it now forming up, and it is a monstrous grid here at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. Big track, big grid, big action, all here in the Shooting Stars Cup. And it's Carlos Disch at the front of the field, up and ahead of Benjamin Rook in second. Francois Sanludovic in third place, up and ahead of Matthias Claes in fourth. And we see Roel Hermsen in fifth, Ian McGowan in sixth, with Wright in seventh, Ramensperger in eighth, Clements ninth, and Barros rounds out the top 10. Heavy presence in that top 10 there by Race Club UK and Simplay Motorsports. And then we see a somewhat sparse positioning there for Team ARL and Team VSR, with only 1 car of each team there inside of that top 10 being Disch and Wright. Outside of the top 10 we have Cairns, Bergsma, Hall, Prince, Evans, Hacker, Oates, Martins, Burns and Cheetos to the back of the top 20. Then from 21st to 30th, McNally, Purslow, Angeletta, Bingham, Rod, Stoddard, McMillan, Lamming, Amador and Betterson. Then from 31st to 34th we have the Jackal, we have Butler, Bender and Winnings. To make a 34-car grid on today's field, 17 either side. We did get wind there from Wishful Winnings, and now this does explain why we're shy of another VSR car in that top 10. I did think it was a rather confusing one. It was a game crash for the number 23. He starts plumb last of the field, 34th, alongside David Bender with Team ARL. So about a minute and a half before that formation lap, and we go rolling down through this fantastic circuit. Very vertical opening sector for these drivers here. They run downhill out of La Source, then uphill out through Arouge and Radion. We've seen this area of the track to be equally feared and respected, much like another circuit that opened around the same time historically, the year thereafter, the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza. It Variante Rettifilo is one of the most feared opening complexes of European motor racing, so this ought to be really no different. Do expect there to be that lingering sense that something could go catastrophically wrong on the run up through Eau Rouge and Radion, but this is peak adrenaline for these drivers. It's going to be fantastic to see what they make of it with an hour and a half's worth of racing to play with here. Now, heavy consideration on strategy here as we get into the 30-second warning. We'll be getting on board with Carlos Disch. So, on board with the leading car, number 54, Team VSR Mustang of Carlos Disch. He'll be taking us away for the run down through to turns 2, 3, and 4. Now, it is worth pointing out here, on the run, I think, oh, we're just after turn 2, so we're into turns 3, 4, and 5. So, it's worth pointing out, of course, we mentioned that the straight that we see normally the Belgian Grand Prix start from on the run down towards La Source will not be where we start today's race from. We start it right here, parallel to the GT paddock. Now, heavy consideration for strategy today as we see pulling away as Carlos Disch, because we are in the midst of the longest pit straight section in any track on Assetto Corsa Competizione. These pit stop times could be triple, if not quadruple, the length of a standard pit stop. So heavy emphasis on the timing and execution of these pit stops, because every second counts and can heavily define success or failure by contrast in today's event. An endurance racing venue at heart, though, hosts the Belgian Grand Prix. It's almost quite a pity then to hear that the Belgian Grand Prix has now been put on a half-year rota with the Spanish Grand Prix over at the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya. Kind of goes to show the modern scape of Formula One is more interested in profit margins and is now cannibalizing its own history. But less on the tirade about that today. We're on the run down towards Le Combe and Malmedy, with 34 GT3 cars surmounting as it stands there. Just doing some quick maths in my head here. And I think that comes out to roughly about 18 to $19 million worth of machinery, with the average GT3 car pricing up at about 550,000. So that's a very expensive grid indeed on the run down through towards the run of Bruxelles, otherwise known as Rivage at turn 10. We see it's a very vibrant start to this formation lap here by Ben Rook. He is looking all ready to get himself up and ahead. He's sizing position up in front of Carlos Disch. Now, we know the Lamborghini is actually quite an underrated pick when it comes to the starting procedure. We've seen it to be really fleet of foot when we go green and racing. Of course, the Ford is a formidable force to be reckoned with, as we see on board with Carlos Disch, inadvertently getting on board, so it appears, with Sant Ludovic. I mean, this is an odd perspective we see here. Is he trying to, like, perfectly line himself up with the other Ford? What a bizarre thing. Seeing inside two cars at the same time. Normally, that means there's been a horrific crash, but this means that the cars are just phasing through one another on the run down through turn 12. Taking a look then, this is Sant Ludovic, currently third on the field. We see heavy presence by Simplay. They are gunning for a race win in this series. And taking a look back through the championship standings, pulling away the regs, taking a look at the team's championship here, Simplay is looking to emerge up and ahead of VSR. They're 300 points out. That's not a great deal when you consider the amount of points that they generate by themselves in a single race. That's why we have such high points tallies after a single round. Not only do we have a huge driver lineup per team, they also get a lot of points in those top 20 or so positions. Race Club UK, case in point there, leading by 1,010 points. Team VSR, they already won the last race. That was courtesy of Fate Galaxy. Can they win this one? Being the real question. As a team, they are struggling to keep wins there with Race Club UK, but they are gunning for those race victories outright. They have some very solid talents backing them up here, with drivers like Carlos Disch, who's a two-time VSR champion. As it stands, he's also made recent history over on the NLRL Sunday League. First Swiss driver ever to win in the series, going back-to-back for victories on his only second appearance to the season at Bathurst here in Season 5, which we'll be going live with tomorrow at 6:30 PM BST as we move the clocks forward tomorrow. We do have notice there of one driver starting from the pit lane, the 664 Ian McGowan starting from the pit, so it'll be 17 on one side, 16 on the other, one from the pit lane for the starting procedure on the run down towards the line. Bear in mind, we're not going to go racing out through turn 20. We're going to go racing out past turn 1 through to turn 2, parallel to the GT paddock. So the race will finish here on the run out of turn 19 and 20, as it does normally. As you can see, even on the map there, marked out is the finish line. This is where the race will end for our drivers. As we just cross over, you can see just coming up there is the checkered line. That's where the race will end, but we're not long from finding out where the race is going to start, and it's out past La Source. So then, down through La Source, running two abreast then on the run down past turn 1 into turn 2. 17 cars on one side, 16 on the other, one from the pit lane. for 34 cars total here for Race Club UK's Shooting Stars Cup Round 2 here at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. It's 90 minutes of racing against the clock here, and we're Carino Racing here in Belgium. A great start then from the front row. We see the Lamborghini already getting a spry start there, courtesy of Ben Rook, trying to go up and around the outside, up through Rouge and Radion. It's side by side from the front row, but it's going to be, by looks of it there, Rook leading into turn 6, but up the Kemmel straight, here comes the Mustang. Carlos Dish side by side with Ben Rook on the run down the Kemmel straight. Meanwhile, we can see in the background, spreading out is the rest of the field, but looking up in front and centre, it's later onto the brakes there by Ben Rook to take the lead, up and ahead of Carlos Dish. Right behind then, Matthias Claes for third, Roll Hermsen in fourth, looking at a shot of third place himself. He's up the inside on the exit of Melmedy. Out through turn 9, side by side between those two in the background, we see emerging from behind them is Francois St. Ludovic on the run down through to turn 10. Great start then by Ben Rook. D second, we see here with Claes having dropped in behind Roll Hermsen, down through to the no-name corner at turn 11. We see a brilliant start then by Race Club UK's number 5. As for Lars Rammensberger, he drops in behind the pack here with Claes. By looking at it, things here, looking to possibly fight with his teammate, St. Ludovic, who's had himself a great start so far. Looking further in behind, we see a brilliant start for the 540. Right, representing Team ARL, spearheading that charge into the top 10, presently 7th as it would stand. Up and ahead there of Chris Clements. For Pedro Barros, he's got present company there. Jelmer Bergsma right behind, so it appears, in the number 88. Actually, no, that would not appear to be the case. That's the 229 we're thinking of there. And that's William Cairns. Driver who was really hot off the brakes there in round 1. We see already having made foot there in the top 10. Having a look here side by side, St. Ludovic and Rammensberger. On the run round Blanchemont, right behind them we see there is Wright. 3 teams in contention, Simplay in the red car, white cars there from Race Club UK, blue car from Team ARL. Out through turn 19 and 20, we see the Lamborghini looking for things up the inside, but is squeezed out. So as it stands, after the first of those flying laps, we see Ben Rook leading the charge. Carlos Dish second, Roll Hermsen in third with the fastest lap, and Matthias Claes in fourth. Lars Rammensberger in fifth, with St. Ludovic 6th, Wright 7th, Clements 8th, Barros 9th, and Cairns in 10th. A vivid start to things here in Spa. We see right behind is Jelmer Bergsma. In the number 88, Richard Hall from behind there in the 111. Behind him, Nico Prince. Andre Martin's 14th, Tom Hacker right behind. We see Lee Evans, part of that pack as well, chasing up through the run of things at Eau Rouge and Radion. We see from behind here, James Burns versus Ian Oates. VSR and Race Club UK squabbling inside the top 15. We see the Nissan and the Honda head-to-head. Sorry, the Mercedes and the Honda. Nissan up ahead. You see, though, he's got the run for things here. So Ian Oates looking to go side by side here with James Burns. Burns holding the inside, Oates to the outside on the run into Lacombe. Meanwhile, yellow flags out. It's the number 75 down the order. Meanwhile, it's contact there between Burns and Oates. Out through Lacombe and Melmedy. Looking down the order, we see in the aftermath of it there, Alonso Amador in the number 81, serious front end damage. Also into the pit lane is Richard Bettison with Simplay Motorsports. We're back in a green flag racing, but there will be a conditional yellow flag for the 81. Serious front end damage. He'll have the meatball flags to bring the car in ASAP. So Rook from Dish, the forefront of fighting here. Simplay and VSR squabbling for the lead of this race. Meanwhile, Race Club UK takes up a confident position on the podium, courtesy of the Audi of Roll Hermsen. Claes tucked in behind. We also have a very close fight here at the back of the top 5. St. Ludovic versus Rammensberger. As we see on board with these two, very close fighting as well. Most recently, between Clements and Wright, having got up and ahead, forcing the Lamborghini down at 8th place. We see Pedro Barros sizing up his chances there of 8th place. Looking further down through the order, we can see the spread of the pack out past 15th. We see 18th there for Angeletta, Rod 19th, Burns 20th, McNally in 21st, Bingham in 22nd, Konstantinos Chitos in 23rd. Having a look for the closest gaps we can find here. Well, having a look up back towards that top 10, we see here with Cairns versus Barros. Around 3/10 of a second. It's also worth pointing out only about 4/10 out is the leading pair. You can see them practically push each other out through La Source on the run down through to turn 2. Claes not too far of a chance here on Hermsen. About half a second between the pair. We see St. Ludovic is closing ground at a fast rate of knots here over Rammensberger. Looking on board here with the 54 just briefly. on with Carlos Deach because he's got a very good run out through Eau Rouge and Radion. This is in the fight for the race lead. Ben Rook, it like a deer in the headlights here on the Camel Stray. Does he look to cover off the inside? Not by this chance, but too late onto the brakes there for the Ford as he is forced to tuck back in behind. Nonetheless, we saw great hustle out through Sector 1. Now into Sector 2 we go with the leading pair. Deach chasing Rook for the race lead. Down through turn 10 they go. Super, super close there after the heat starts to dissipate off of lap 1 fever. We see here with another very close at hand fight. This is between two of the Simplay cars of Matthias Claes and Francois Saint-Ludovic up against Roel Hermsen and Lars Rammensberger of Race Club UK. Just getting a look briefly back on board here because every time we take a look away from the 54 and the 14, they get closer and closer and closer. They're always moving when you're not looking. More like the weeping angels from Doctor Who. Looking up and around that top 10 if we can here. We see with Cairns up and ahead of Hjalmar Bergsma and the number 88 Aston. Right behind them, Richard Hall. Getting a brief glance back over the front there. You can never be too careful about these sort of things. And looking back over to Wishful Winnings. A driver who started plumb last to this field with that disconnect is now up to 27th. He's up and ahead of Ian Oates with Steve McMillan and Brett Butler in the background there. Two of the ARL cars. Behind them is the Jackal and David Bender. Looking here with the Audi of Roel Hermsen. He's got a clear line of sight over the leading pair up in front there, the number 14 and the number 54. We can see they're getting closer and closer to a chance of battle down towards La Source. Now that could be pretty early warning sign here that we need to get back on board with the 54. As we see from the point of view of the number 5, bear in mind he's got his own plate full here with only 4 tenths between himself and the approaching pack of McLarens looking to tear him limb from third place. Right behind him then Matthias Claes and even his own teammate Lars Rammensberger. Let's get a look on board though with that Mustang because I do fear things are about to go nuclear here for the race lead. Looking on board with Carlos Deach versus Ben Rook. Much like the last lap, these two very close to one another. The Lamborghini just holding on there, 5.2 versus 5.4. And now to the outside goes Deach, late onto the brakes here to try and hold things to the inside for the second part of Lecombe. But it'll be to the outside at Melmedy. Out through turn 9 we go then. He'll have a slightly more aggressive line upon exit to keep him to the outside down through turn 10 at Bruxelles. In the background, we see now looking at his chances up and ahead of that of Roel Hermsen is Matthias Claes. Meanwhile, we do have a huge yellow flag down through Eau Rouge and Radion. As we quickly chime away from these lots to see what the scope of it is, we do see among the casualties the 44, Konstantinos Chitos with Race Club UK. We also see in the background there is Ian Oates with VSR. Looks like there's more casualties up the line, and oh my goodness, get a look at Kieran Rodd's number 61 car. Oh my word, is that even operable? It's dragging its fairings there, it's not looking grand. For the 61, that's a rolling yellow flag through Sector 1 for both the 60 and the 61. That's green flags everywhere else, though, as we're back on board with Deach v Rook. As they make their way to Blanchemont, the 61, I believe, has come to a dead stop down at turn 10. That could be the end of the road here. Also for the 169, one of the drivers caught up earlier on. That was Craig Stoddard with Simplay. And now he's back into the pit lane. That could be a soft exit there for one of those cars. We see Rod is now towed to the pit lane. That also could mark the end of their endeavours here after what has been a very brutal open to round 2. Carlos Deach, 4 tenths away then from Ben Rook. We'll catch on with him in a moment as we see recent progress from inside of the top 10. Watching on with Saint-Ludovic, you can see now, having been condensed in on this fight with a new third place courtesy of Matthias Claes, we see now 2 of those Race Club UK cars in clear line of sight for Saint-Ludovic in the Simplay number 99. You see here, this is Tom Hacker. Any which way you look, there is fighting on this grid, so make no mistake of it. As we catch back on board here with the 54 and the 14. Now, it looks to be third on the trot here for this attempt of an overtake. We'll stay on board, though, just to see things through before we get a look at the wider field. The number 6 has now been towed in. That's Ian Oates, now into the pit lane. We had an emergency yellow flag. I believe this was down out through Blanchemont. Down through to turn 10. He's got a look at the inside, but he backs out of it, allows the Lamborghini to run himself shallow down through Bruxelles. In towards turn 11 we go. More yellow flags out, this time down at Melmedy. The 540 of Wright is caught out down at Melmedy. Back into green flags. Now, getting a gander in with the fighting from behind here as we take a look at the wider result of things. Roll Hermsen's back up towards third. Matthias Claes down to fourth, and Lars Rammensperger in fifth place. We see for Francois St. Ludovic really pressing initiative now for fifth place. He's getting closer and closer and closer on the 51. It's only a matter of time until their fight breaks out into full-blown side-by-side, wheel-to-wheel combat. As it stands then, Ben Rook leads in this race as we make our way round through the curb of Paul Frere. Carlos Diesch in second, Roll Hermsen in third, with Matthias Claes in fourth, Lars Rammensperger fifth, with Francois St. Ludovic in sixth, Chris Clements in seventh. We see for Pedro Barros in eighth, William Cairns ninth, and Jelmer Bergsma in the top 10. Richard Hall in 11th place, Nico Prince in 12th, Andre Martins in 13th place, as we quickly get a gander back on board with these two as they run down towards turn 19 and 20. Wright, having now dropped down to 16th place, falls in behind Evans and Hacker, 14th and 15th. Antonio Angeletta, as it would appear, 17th on the grid, ahead of James Burns. Lewis Perslow, 19th, and Ben Bingham rounds out the top 20. You can see already the death toll of drivers in the pit lane. Amador, Stottard, Betterson, Rod, Oates, Cheetos, McGowan, and McNally. A brutal start then to racing here in the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. We're still watching with the race lead here. Carlos Diesch versus Ben Rook. What has been a fantastic opening fight between these two. Getting a look on board then with the leading car as we crest through Eau Rouge and Radion. We can really get to see from the defending point of view what this advance looks like for Ford up the Kemmel Straight. Bear in mind, they're only operating on 80% of total engine capacity. It shudders to wonder then what it would have looked like had it run the full engine, 5.4 litre against 5.2 as he goes around the outside, then holds the inside of the second part. It looks like up into the lead there for Carlos Diesch, now up and ahead of Ben Rook. A great move then. He tried planning that one out before in the laps before and now executes it properly. So Simplay backs down to second. It's VSR leading with Race Club UK in third, courtesy of this one here, Roll Hermsen in the number 5, who has already had his fair share of fights in a very, very early open to this race. Holds fair distance off of Matthias Claes with Simplay down in fourth. Rammensperger, his teammate, the 51, holds the back of the top 5 at a narrow margin. So we're going to go and catch on board here if we can with the likes of the 99 of St. Ludovic, currently challenging him for a 5th place spot. We're down through campus in towards Stavelot. As we exit campus now, you can see the Mustang trying to get earlier on the throttle than the McLaren, trying to pull itself through each corner. We see a bit of a step out there. That could open the doors up for St. Ludovic to come and challenge. So we'll stay on board with these two here. Making our way up round through Blanchimont. Meanwhile, we now have yellow flags for the 81 down at Eau Rouge and Radion. The exit of turn 19 and 20. No dice then on that fight. So getting a look back on the large screen so that we can get a clear line of sight on everything. We see Diesch leading ahead of Rook as it would stand then. Claes unable to gain ground on Hermsen. He may very well find himself a victim here very shortly of the arrival of Lars Rammensperger. St. Ludovic tucked in behind. We see very close fighting from behind them as well. Clements and Barros and Cairns as it would stand. 3 cars in all, 2 BMWs and a Bentley for good measure up through Eau Rouge and Radion. See here with Pedro Barros. Up and around Eau Rouge and Radion. Now this is a proper cannon uphill, this car. Up round turn 6. He's in the slipstream of the BMW up in front. So he's got a pretty decent run of things here down towards turn 7. Of course, not looking to fight too intently with his teammates, I don't imagine. So Barros pumping the brakes there a little earlier than the 15 in front. Clement stays in 7th. Barros in a close 8th. I don't think he realises yet, but he is carving a line open, and a considerable line open there, given the size of that Bentley. Over to the car behind him, William Cairns in the 229 Simplate BMW. You see here for Jelmer Bergsma. All for company. This is for a 10th place on track. The Aston Martin fending off an advance by BMW. terms of nearby fights as well, this being one of several, but we also catch on board here just at the back of the top 15, Tom Hacker versus Lee Evans. We see here, great exit upon turn 11, Hacker trying to cover off at turn 12. This is going to be a very long-winded fight we see between the 444 and the 101. Number 81 again in trouble. That appears to be for Alonso Amador with Team ARL. Getting a glance here. Oh, yeah, it looks like just stuck in the grass a little bit there for the Ferrari. Back on board then with the Nissan. Up in front of them there, that's Andre Martins in the 404. Then in front of him is Nico Prince in 12th place. Meanwhile, Carlos Disch has now put nearly a full second at the last interval there over Rook in 2nd place. Roel Hermsen holds on to 3rd place for the time being there. He's done quite a solid job so far in a very unorthodox pick that is the Audi R8. We spoke of this in one of our previous broadcasts today. It is fantastic to still see drivers picking cars like the R8 as it's an industry that's become a little bit complacent, I think, with a number of McLarens, Ferraris, BMWs and Fords, but it's always wonderful to see just a slightly odd pick, you know, every now and again for variety. Nothing against those 4 manufacturers, not at all. Up through Rouge and Radeon we see here 2 McLarens and a Ford, Claes, Ramensperger and St. Ludovic, 4th through 6th. See the 2 McLarens getting closer and closer to one another. There is sizable chances here on a fight at 4th place. Lars Ramensperger chasing Matthias Claes down through to turn 7 at Lecom. Also very close fight in behind them there. This is between the 2 BMWs and the Bentley. Race Club UK's Chris Clements and Pedro Barros versus William Cairns. We saw for Cairns, he was a force to be reckoned with in Imola. Today may be no proper exemption. You see behind him, Jelmer Bergsma still holding ground off of Hall. Looking in for close by gaps. I mean, really we'd be looking actually south of the top 4 here. We'd be looking for 5th to 4th. See, again, a big slide for Ramensperger. This was something that St. Ludovic was able to point out in the last lap. We were on board with the 99. We got to see down through Stavolo was a big step out. Now we see it at Pouhon. In the background, we do see here, looks to be some side-by-side action going up and around. The outside goes Barros on Clements. That opens the door up for Cairns. Now side-by-side, it's a bit of contact, so it appears there, and turn around. The 15 nearly spins. Big hit, though, nonetheless, between Cairns and looking at it there with Hall, who now drops in behind. Actually, no, that's, sorry, not Hall, with Clements, sorry, who now drops in behind Hall. So a bit of a shoulder check there by William Cairns. That was a line broken open by this one here, Pedro Barros in the 185 on his way out through Blanchimont. Close by gap to consider again is Ramensperger to Claes. That's furthest up the order of any fights right now. That's for 4th on this grid, and you can consider that a 3-way split for 4th when considering St. Ludovic as part of it. Getting a look on for nearby fights. Now plenty of, we can see here, looking much further down the order, Bingham versus Jackal, but that started to filter out a bit with the Jackal opening the taps up over. We see into the pit lane goes Clements. After that shove from William Cairns, he's taking his first of 2, undercutting by about 10 minutes earlier than the strategy we would have called. We see here with Claes versus Ramensperger. This is where it does stand to kick off here between the 2, following on board with the defending car. In the fight for 4th place, they're side by side. Up in front of them there, Roel Hermsen with Audi. Matthias Claes holds the inside off of Lars Ramensperger, but later onto the brakes goes the 51, up and around the outside, runs the long way around town here on Claes, now through Malmedy on the run down towards Bruxelles. Great move there by Lars Ramensperger, mimicking the same move we saw practiced earlier on by Carlos Disch on Ben Rook for the race lead. Great, great stuff. Out through turn 10. Now on the exit of turn 11 as they take down towards turn 12, we'll catch on board with them in a moment's time. We do see here some close fighting at hand. Andre Martins versus Lee Evans. BSR slowly but surely carving a line up through the top 15 here with the 444 in pursuit. You see, though, even for the 444, it is struggling to maintain that rear end grip, sliding his way around Pouon. Lee Evans drops a little bit of time there off of Andre Martins. See in the background here some close fighting. Tom Hacker versus, by looks of it, that is not Nico Prince. Who is that there? I believe, yes, that's the 540 of Wright, as it would appear. Getting a look back on with that furthest fight up the field. The possible counter-attack here being planned out by Matthias Claes on the exit of Blanchimont. Still in pursuit, so he's not lost too much ground here since losing out 4th place to Lars Rammensperger. Number 5 stays out, number 14 stays out, and number 54 stays out. So as we're getting closer and closer to that first pit window, that comes up in about 9 minutes time, so give it or take about 4 laps roughly. We see Cairns is coming in. So we saw earlier on that Clements came in, now Cairns. Bergsma versus Hall. This is 8th place up for grabs. You also see again the real topic of the last 10 minutes or so here is that fight for 4th. See up in front, now lapping out past, I believe that's Amador, so that's going to be for the number 5 of Roll Hermsen going up and around before we get down to Lacombe and Melody. James Burns is into the pit lane now with Race Club UK Honda. We see here super close action between Lee Evans and Andre Martins down through to Lacombe and Melody. Number 404 holds things in through turns 7 through 9. That Nissan's not going anywhere, mark my words on that one. We've seen what Evans can do behind the wheel of the R35, even though he's recently transitioned over to Mercedes. He's not lost his magic there with the GTR. Out through turn 10. We'll catch on with them in a moment's time. We see here close fighting between Hjalmar Bergsma and Richard Hall. Getting a glance in here with some of the fighting from around the field. We go on board then with Evans in his pursuits of Martins. Presently then fighting for 11th place, though you can see up in front is Nico Prince, so it is worth pointing out we are close to a possible fight then for 10th. One thing we do know about the Nissan: formidable straight line speed. Now, can it hold a candle to BMW? That's what we're here to find out. BMW, one of the fastest manufacturers in the game. Ford having them near enough dead to rights. They're both of them capable at Monza, at least, of around 174, 175 miles an hour. We know not yet what Nissan's upper limits are. We saw him pump the brakes there, and the reason was, if he held out and kept on the throttle, he would have got a penalty. We see up the inside went the 2 Team ARL cars. Andre Martins trying his luck there on his teammate Nico Prince. This does open the taps up on the possibility of now that fight for 10th. Evans having to take evasive action. Meanwhile, we do see this has now since upgraded to a fight of 8th place, with drivers currently in the pit lane. Among them was Bergsma. You see, getting the leg up there to 9th place, side by side with Andre Martins, but he's about a second out, so this is more realistically that fight for 9th we're seeing play out as they go side by side. Now, this is a perilous sight. I could barely watch us backing out there, the 444. Survival instincts from Lee Evans as he now finds himself front and center as a victim of the fight for 10th place, because looking behind there and see approaching at a fast rate of knots is Wright in the 540. Caught out earlier on in an incident down at Lacombe and Melody. Now we see Wright's back in the fight for the top 10. Taking a look here then, we see of the drivers in the pit lane, Hall and Bergsma, 2 of the drivers we saw fighting a little earlier on. Both of them come in at the same time. You see, this is one of the closer fights inside of the top 10 at the moment. This is for 10th place between Evans and Wright. Tucked in just behind them there, Tom Hacker in the 101. Taking a quick glance here to note that Rammensperger still holds ground off of Claes. It's now Sant Ludovic trying to get up into the top 5 ahead of his teammate. The exit of Stavolo here into the Curb Report Frere. More on that in a moment, as we do see here continued fighting between the Lamborghini and the Nissan, now with Wright up and ahead, having got the leg up in Sector 2. Wright up to 10th place. Evans is now squeezed down to 11th, with Hacker on his tail in 12th. Things are looking rather bleak here for the Nissan. Just glancing in there once again to the top 5 before we get back on board here with the scope of things down through Blanchimont. You can see the Nissan on great counter-attack here. That straight line speed really helping him in the long run. Lars Rammensperger's into the pit lane. Meanwhile, Lee Evans sizes a move to the inside at turn 19 and 20. The 540 stays long on the brakes and holds his ground up and ahead of Evans. Out through the bus stop chicane we go. Team ARL, Team VSR and Race Club, not Race Club UK, sorry. Yes, no, it is Race Club UK. All fighting for 10th. That'll soon then be 9th, because considering Rammensperger's position there in the pit lane, that's going to be a shift of position for all 3 drivers, for Wright, Evans and Hacker. Getting a look just a little further down the line in a moment's time here. We are just going to quickly watch, though, with the 444. He's got a very good run, I must say, there out of Eau Rouge and Radion. Is descended upon the Lamborghini, but you can see the Lambo holding centre mass of the road, allowing Evans to run up and around him as it would stand. And it's going to be the Lamborghini back to the inside, as we see there, right back up to 9th place. Looking over the back end, you still see the presence there of Tom Hacker in the 101. Here with William Cairns. He already took his first mandatory pit stop, emerges ahead of teammate Jelmer Bergsma, and up and ahead of Chris Clements, whom of which there was that incident earlier on. Rammensperger in the pit lane means he's a free position up now to 21st. As I say that, though, Rammensperger's off his jacks, so we will be seeing whether or not he comes out of the paddock fairly quickly. Oh, my word, into the wall. There goes Alonso Amador. A big hit off there as he's tucked into the wall. Getting a look as the yellow flags descend upon the curb of Paul Frere. We see there in the wall after that tap between himself and I think we were on board there for a moment with the 185 of Pedro Barros. Into the wall goes Alonso Amador in the Team ARL number 81 car. Back in the green flags because he's got himself up and going. You can see on the exit of Blanchimont here. Looks to be a bit of trouble for Nico Prince. Andre Martins takes initiative as Prince tries to hold the inside off of his teammates. Trying to recuperate on his losses. Into the pit lane he goes. So leaving Martins out to inherit 7th. Right to inherit 8th. That could be 7th in his own respect there. As you can see, pressed right up to the back of his teammate in the 404. Wright's on a mission. Looking up the inside down at La Source. We see not fighting him there was his teammate. So smart move between the pair. Now giving each other the advantage. We see tucked in behind is Evans and Hacker. Now up towards the scope of looking at it there, 8th and 9th. With the free position by Roll Hermsen. Now this is where we're going to come to expect a lot of those pit stops happening. Now we see again into the pits was not only Prince and Hermsen, but now we also see Lewis Perslow into the pit lane as well. Do we expect that top 5 to start making appearances in as well? So keep an eye to San Ludovic and Claes, Rook and Deesh and Barros for that matter. We see the 404 and the 540. Surprising amount of fighting. Oh my word, into the wall goes Wright. Oh, a huge hit there for the Lamborghini. Getting a look on the replays. Out through Lacombe and Melmedy, an area he's already struggled intently with. We see, well, I'm not really sure what's gone on for him. I think the car's just hooked in. He's tried to get on the throttle on the exit of turn 8 and the car's just turned in with him. Surprising amount of pushback there from the Lamborghini. A very confusing time indeed for the 540. So as it stands, approaching the half an hour mark, we see here just quickly with Carlos Deesh in the lead of this race with Team VSR. And it's coming into the pit lane. We'll see, does Rook follow? Yes, he does. What about Claes? He's on the exit of Blanchimont. Behind him would be, as it would stand, is at the look of things here for Barros. We'll take a look, though. Rook and Deesh in. Does Clace follow? The simple answer being yes. What about Barros? Yes. Sant Ludovic, for example. Where does he come into the pit lane? Now, looking here with Andre Martins, Lee Evans and Tom Hacker. 3 more cars to possibly join them in the pit lane as we see a mass infill. Huge bit of contact there for the 404. Tapped across the back end. He won't see the pit lane, but one who is seeing the pit lane is neither of those 3. It's right. Martins with that huge tap there on the back end from the 444. I think just very late onto the brakes there for Evans. That's ultimately what led to that moment of contact down at the bus stop chicane. We see here Winnings staying out. Same story for Angeletta. Now with a normal paint scheme. I'm sad because he's lost his original colours there. We see for Lamming. We'll see. Possibly into the pit lane. We'll have a look though. Lamming's in. We see a whole swarm of drivers in the pits at the moment. The entire top 5 went in. So you see, still rolling down to his box here is Sant Ludovic. You can really get a scope of how long this pit lane run really is. You see with Pedro Barros, he's in the pit lane just having come to a stop. See here Rammensperger and Hermsen. Both of them having took their first pit stops a little while back. They're 12 laps strong at the moment. We're half an hour into this race. We see a bit of a deep run there through turn 19 and 20 by Hermsen. That could possibly kick the doors open here for Rammensperger. Heading down through La Source, trying to get the leg up on his teammate here. 51 has been gaining ground on him throughout the race. We'll see what they can do over the course of this second stint of 3. We see in the pits is Clace on his way out now in the 442. Up and ahead of, by the looks of it there, that was for Barros and Cairns, so it would appear. Cairns, though, rolling up very quickly there. You see emerging up and alongside there of William Cairns is Matthias Clace of Simplay. In the pit lane then, Wright, Butler and Lamming. See, looking up the inside here on McMillan, this is Ben Rook. Driver had a very vivid start to this race, led for a moment ahead of Carlos Deesh. Presently 3.2 seconds away from the Team VSR Mustang. Ben Bingham up and ahead, now having swapped places with Deesh. See Rammensperger now up and ahead of Hermsen. The number 12 in trouble. We do have a yellow flag down at turn 12, of which we're approaching at a fast rate of knots. It's for Bingham. We see there just making his way back onto the track. This is from the point of view of Roel Hermsen, and Ben Bingham clatters the wall, it appears there, after a big snap out on his run down through turn 12 at Puan. Trying to get a look on board here with the Ferrari in particular, as we do see a little bit of a squeeze there for the 61, a bit of a slide for him as it stands. We also see Purslow v Wright as the next fight here. This is 22nd up for grabs, but more on that in a moment's time. Looking on board with the Ferraris, if we can get a scoop in here. This is with Ben Bingham, who's had some serious stability troubles in this lap alone. Tucked in behind him there is Ian Oates. Up in front of him, Pedro Barros. See with Lamming, one of the drivers who have come in to the first rung of pit stops. Now there are plenty more still joining us from the paddock, so getting a look on board for the current scope of things then. Wishful Winning stays out. Angeletta, as it would appear, stays out. Martins is in, Evans is in, Hacker is in. Deesh moves back up then to the podium, now 3rd place in the 54, Rook to 4th. 55 minutes left to go. We're currently, as it would stand then, 25 or so minutes from the next wave of pit stops. We see here, side by side, as Oates unlaps himself from Bingham. In terms of nearby fights, we have one going on here. Lewis Purslow versus right. Presently then for 22nd, the Lamborghini having recently moved up to 22nd. We see leaping for the inside goes the 32. Can he commit to the move out through La Source? Lamborghini holding the outside. BMW to the inside. Now he'll be to the outside through Eau Rouge, then to the inside at Radion. It's going to be a bit of a tough one. They're side by side. Oh my word, a bit of a tap there. That could have ended in disaster, but we're not quite done yet. How has he avoided the wall? Oh my word. That's a code brown for the number 32. Get a look at that on the replay. He was millimeters from the wall. There, that tap up through Eau Rouge. Then he's got no stability. The back end's trying to come away. Snaps in the opposite direction. He is millimeters from that wall. My word. Well, the next pit stop, Lewis Purslow is probably going to have a change of trousers as well as a change of tyres. That was a tough one there for the 32. He's done very, very well to keep himself out of trouble, because that could have ended his race right there and then. He'll be a little shaken up over having lost the position, but I'm pretty sure worse things could have met him there up through Eau Rouge and Radion. Namely the barrier flat out. You see here, looking up the inside, St. Ludovic on Bingham. In towards turn 19 and 20, they rub doors. Out through turn 20, another bit of contact there with the number 12 and the number 99. And the number 99 has to run all the way out wide at turn 20 to stay up and ahead here of what appears to be the number 111. This is Richard Hall gunning for him down through to La Source. Out through turn 1. It's a bit of a door ding there between Bingham and Hall. We see in the pit lane at the moment is Wishful Winnings. It leaves Antonio Angeletta out by his lonesome at the lead of this race. Up through Eau Rouge and Radion we go then in what is a very tight pack of traffic. And we see having to run over the inside and cut across appeared to be there that of Chris Clements. Now finds himself 3 abreast with the Aston Martin and the Ferrari as we get onto the Kemmel. That filters out because through comes Bergsma. He's kept the foot in and he's just planted it up through the middle of those two. A brilliant charge by the Aston Martin. See for Hall v St. Ludovic. Down through to turn 10. Also keeping note here of a fight, McNally, as it would appear, and David Bender. This is for 26th out through Blanchemont. Now, McNally having recently lost position out to Ian McGowan for 25th place. We're down towards turn 19 and 20. The Aston Martin versus the Nissan. Also a fight to consider here. Clements, Bergsma and Bingham even closer. Hall and St. Ludovic again still fighting for position. Also to consider possible counter-attack coming up from Hermsen on Rammensperger, though of course nowhere near as much intensity as we've been seeing in some of the more recent fights on track. Could be definitely the consideration here. Clements v Bergsma, the exit of the curb of Paul Frere. McNally. Bender still in pursuit. We see up in front here. Looks to be a charge by McGowan on Brett Butler, as it would appear. 664. Still hunting down Butler. Down through turns 7, 8, and 9. At Lacombe and Melmedy. Looking for it on the inside at Melmedy. It's a bit of a risky one. The 664 lodges it up the inside. It's contact between the 450 and the 664 there into the wall. The 450 clattering the far side of the wall as well. The 664 stays going, but he has got quite some damage on the side there. And that nearly invites in Sean McNally to have not one but 2 free positions as he rounds turn 11. Into the pits at the moment, Ben Bingham from 16th, also in Antonio Angeletta. So Carlos Deesh back up to the lead and Ben Rooks second. It's Lars Rammensperger to third, Roll Hermsen as it would appear then to fourth, William Cairns to the top 5. Matthias Claes in 6th, Pedro Barros in 7th. As it would also stand in St. Ludovic to 8th place, Hall 9th, and Bergsma in the top 10. Looking back in with the frankly nuclear state of affairs that has befell this grid in the last couple of laps, we do see McGowan is out of this race. There has been a notice there of disconnect for the 664. Ian McGowan is out of this race. That's a free position for McNally. In the pit lane at the moment, then we see Bingham, who had some stability troubles earlier on in this race. Looking here at a nearby possible fight. 6 tenths and closing. Clements on Bergsma. That's among the closer fights we have now, with dissipation of hostilities outside of the top 20. This is one to watch. So we'll go and catch on board then with that 15. We see from the 51 just briefly there. We also have a quick glance here, just as Ian Oates is navigated out past there by St. Ludovic. Having a look to catch on board, though, if we can here with the BMW. We see a plentiful variety of Fords, plenty to consider here. Nico Prince and Tom Hacker for the fight of 13th. One such consideration, but looking to go and catch on board then with the Beamers. We're on board here with Clements. Heading down at turns 19 and 20. Up in front, you can see there his target, the Aston Martin number 88, Hjalmar Bergsma with Simplay Motorsport. Out in front of Bergsma is his teammate Richard Hall in the 111. Blue flags being shown for Ian Oates in the number 6 VSR Mercedes. You see they're pulling off to the right-hand side. But our focal point here is on the fight for 10th. We see out through turn 6. Slowly closing ground. Now the Aston feeding off of the slipstream from the Mercedes just a little bit there to keep himself in the run of things, and that's helped him more than enough on the run down through Telecom. As running a bit shallow there on the run through turn 7. Wes Clements in the 15. We'll catch on with him in a moment. Taking another glance around the track here to see where nearby fights could be coming from. This is one to consider Claes v Cairns, as Cairns is in the top 5 right now. Claes only 0.6 of a second behind as we enter turn 12. You can see up in front there's Roel Hermston as well. Now some 2 seconds away from his teammate Lars Rammensperger in 3rd. We're some 17 minutes out then from the next wave of pit stops. We already saw the majority of our first mandatory pit stops completed around the first 30 minutes of racing. We'll just quickly stay on board here on the exit of the curb of Paul Fred, just because it's worth noting here this possible fight. Now, we don't expect things to get really too elbows out. This is, of course, a fight amongst teammates. We're on board with Matthias Claes on his way around Blanchimont, but it is worth pointing this out because he has got quite a bit of momentum. The 450 has a stop go 30 for speeding in the pit lane. That pertains to the Lamborghini of Wright with Team ARL. It's been a really rough day for him so far. You see that so nearly colliding with the back end of his teammate. He was almost forced to run out to the left at La Source. You see the current scope of the standing order here with 46 minutes left to go. Coming up on the halfway mark, we're watching here with a fight for 5th place though. Matthias Claes versus William Cairns. We do have a yellow flag for the number 12. That's down at turn 19 and 20. We see here among the two teammates letting one another past. That fight for 5th ended as quickly as it started. We saw it was a tactical order from Simplay, or at least a executive decision made by Cairns himself to allow Claes on past. He doesn't want to fight with the McLaren at this time. He wants to conserve this stint to give himself a rolling chance in towards the 3rd and final in about 15 minutes time. We see here, back on with the fight we were watching at least some time ago, was Clements v Bergsma. Now from the point of view of the Aston Martin here, Hjalmar Bergsma with Simplay. Presently then that fight for 10th. Looking down through campus then. Here in Sector 2, just on the run in towards Sector 3 as we enter the run to Stavolo. The Aston Martin has the BMW pitched on corner exit. That's where he seems to be gaining a lot of his ground as it would stand. We're halfway through the race. We'll get a look at the order in a moment's time. We do just quickly note as well a very close pack of cars led by the number 10. So we'll go and take a look on board with them in a moment's time. Down through Blanchimont, this is where the BMW really gets to open the taps up over the Aston Martin. Out through Blanchimont we go. A bit of a kick up over the curbs there on the left-hand side for Clements. Bergsma holds the inside down through the bus stop chicane, turn 19 and 20. The 15 and the 88 out through turn 20. Hold their ground then as it would stand for the fight of 10th place. We'll catch on with them in a moment's time, but taking a look just briefly over at a fight here, led on by Nico Prince in the number 10. Right behind him is Tom Hacker and Lee Evans. These three super close to one another. Team ARL, Race Club UK and Team VSR. You see the 444 was sizing up, at least in thought there, a look up the inside. We'll have a glance on with them in a moment's time. We do just quickly catch back on board here. Clements v Bergsma, watching from the 15's point of view, the attacking car here in the fight of 10th place on board with Clements. Down through to Lacombe and Melmoth. He still can't find any ground of it. It's got to be a frustrating footnote in their fight for 10th. Every single time the BMW has tried to pitch its way on the inside, it just never works out. The Aston Martin's always got a trick up its sleeve. It's a curious case. Number 12 for the stop go 30. That's for Ben Bingham. More on with them in a moment. You see with Hacker ahead of Evans, looking to attack here with Nico Prince in front for 13th place. Tom Hacker late onto the brakes there at turn 10 as he just accidentally left the door open for the arrival of the 444. As you can see, the gap's still very thin on the inside, so no. Out through turn 11, however, we do see things get closer. Snapping in between then the current fight, 3 in all for 13th, and then 2-car battle between Jelmer Bergsma and Chris Clements for 10th place, just up in front of them. Out through the Kerber Paul Frere. Now back on with Clements. We see he's getting a much better run of things out through turn 16. Up towards turn 17 and 18 at Blanchimont. He'll be to the outside on the Aston Martin. If he can hold his ground from there, he will find his way to the inside of the bus stop chicane, but it is a very, very tall order. We come rocketing out through turn 18. The Aston still holds on to 10th place. Great defensive performance by Jelmer Bergsma with Simplay so far. And Clements keeps coming up empty here when it comes to an attack for that 10th place spot. We see here, different in story. We see Nico Prince versus Tom Hacker. A car with fantastic brakes versus a car with fantastic straights. We see third party in all is the Nissan there. Lee Evans of Team VSR as we go rocketing down through to the bus stop chicane. The number 10 into the pit lane. So Prince is in, undercutting the final pit stop by about 11 minutes there. That leaves Evans and Hacker to inherit the fight for 13th place. Those two only about 2 tenths apart from one another. Getting a look quickly back on here with Clements v Bergsma, just on their most recent chapter on the Kemmel Straight. And still no dice on that move to 10th place there for Chris Clements. It's got to be frustrating, but he's got to keep himself calm and composed. Still one more pit stop and 41 or so minutes of racing left to be had here before the end of round 2 of the Shooting Stars Cup. So we'll go and stay on board with these two particular fights then. There's Hacker v Evans and Bergsma v Clements. Try saying that 5 times fast. Because I won't. 40.5 minutes left to go. You see their bare exit out of turn 11, so I think we'll leave it on with these two here, with Clements and Bergsma. On board then with Jelmer Bergsma, the defending of 2 cars, the Aston Martin, number 88 for Simplay Motorsport, on the exit of Stavolo into the Kerber Paul Frere here in Sector 3. Looking over that rear view, he's not going away anytime soon. Clements later onto the brakes. There's going for the inside at turn 19. It's contact between Jelmer Bergsma and Chris Clements. Very lofty send there on the brakes down at the bus stop chicane. Get a gander of this one. From the point of view of Jelmer Bergsma, still holds on to that 10th place spot. Was there really ever the place for it? I'm not so certain. That looked like a send from miles back for the number 15. With Bergsma still holding on to 10th, Clements now drops about 4 seconds down in 11th place. We'll catch on with them a little later on. We do see here Winnings v Burns. This is for 15th on track. Honda versus Ford in a rather bizarre matchup. The NSX and the Mustang down through to turn 1 at La Source. 420 trying to go up and around the outside. Lost about 4/10 there off to the number 23. So Wishful Winnings holds his ground from 15th place on track. Getting a quick glance up at the front of the field here. We see for Carlos Dish 5.6 seconds up the road from Ben Rook. For San Ludovic, he's up and ahead of Hall by 2.4 seconds, but he's far off from Barros by 9 seconds as it would stand right now. Hacker still ahead, as it would appear, of Evans. In terms of fights, it is still close at hand here with Hacker and Evans, but not close enough, really, as it would stand. This is where we'll be focusing our attention to, so let's go and catch with the McLaren or the Audi. I mean, we're not going to be picky about it. Looking to catch here. This is with Matthias Claes hunting down Roel Hermsen. Audi defending the inside. McLaren going for the outside. This is for 4th place here between Simplay and Race Club UK into turn 19 and 20. On with the 442. Looking for it at La Source, but can he find the grounds for it? No, as he backs out at turn 1. Leaves him stunted for momentum. The Audi, plenty of room there on the racing line to just take back up the slack of it and put about half a second up over the McLaren. But this is where it could be finding itself in a bit of a vulnerable spot if it has a bad run out through Eau Rouge and Radion. As it seems, though, for the McLaren, he's also had a bit of a wonky run of things, cutting over part of Radion as it would stand, but still with enough of the momentum that he would require to reel the Audi back in on the Camel. We see at a fast rate of knots, then proceeding up to the outside line, going for it around the outside, then Matthias Claes on Roel Hermsen. Can he commit to the move? We've seen a few drivers attempt this one before. Is the 442 likely to be successful? Gearing up for a switchback to put him on the inside, down at the run of Bruxelles at turn 10. Up on the inside goes Claes. Can he hold it? Being the real question. It looks likely. What a setup then out through turn 9. But as we see, there is chance for counter-attack. The number 5 still side by side with Claes. It's contact between the pair. Into the wall goes Matthias Claes. He bounces from the wall. He's back in the fight, but he is not happy. Not one bit. As it appears, though, not significant damage to the steering or any of the aero surfaces as it would appear for the McLaren. So he's still able to stay in the fight, but he is not happy at all with the number 5. There was the ambition for it down through turn 11. It's a deceptively tight section of the track, though, in execution. 5 minutes out then from the next wave of pit stops. If Claes can hold things out for 2 more laps, he'll still be on par with strategy and just not repair any bodywork. He won't spend any excess time in the pits more than he has to for the mandate of fuel and tyres. Out through Blanchimont. It does put a bit of a damper then on that fight for 4th place, as he's a little too far out to properly reel the Audi back in. We'll have to wait and see how things proceed into the next lap on the run through turns 2, 3, 4 and 5 on the run out of La Source into Eau Rouge and Radion. In the background there you can see lingering in the distance William Cairns and Pedro Barros of Simplay and Race Club UK. Down through into turn 1. You see the Audi had a bit of a spotty run of things there at La Source, so this does bring back in the question of the fight for 4th place from Claes' point of view as we follow out through turn 2 into turns 3, 4 and 5. Up through Eau Rouge and Radion. McLaren versus Audi. Now, we saw the ground. He was able to pull back in on lap 22. Oh, into the wall goes the Audi of Roll Hermsen. Collides with the wall. Yellow flags out. We can see him trailing to the far end of the track. Oh, no, 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 no. We saw here, just dives off because he's hit a point of compression. I think they're on the front. That's caused the front end to go light because it's bounced back up on him. And he's gone right into that far side wall. That is likely to be the end of the road as it would stand then for Roll Hermsen. We'll try to catch on board with the Audi, see what the scope of things is like here. But I really don't have too many hopes. If the Audi hasn't already withdrawn from the round, I'd be quite surprised, given the scope of damage it inherited. Trying to look for the Lamborghinis. That gives us a sight line here on the Audi, and you can see the state of affairs for Roll Hermsen. It's a conditional yellow flag as he continues to drop through the order. We can see two cars trying to go side by side here. It's David Bender and Francois Sanludovic. Sanludovic trying to get up and around here. Hermsen not realizing he's got critical damage and is trying to nurse the car to the pit lane. We see it's sizable damage to the steering system here. We're on board with the number 5 Audi. Recent turn of events here for Race Club UK's Roll Hermsen. Out past him goes Richard Hall. Down through the campus. You can see behind him another damaged car, Alonso Amador, with Team ARL. America's Racing League, number 81. It's a miracle then that Audi's still going after the hit it had at the wall. It was very, very high speed. I mean, looking back on the replay, this was just the trailing end of that incident from the point of view of Claes. You can see there, that's the trailing end of it. You'll get on the replay here, I think there, just dives for the wall. A huge knock for Roll Hermsen. He's in. David Bender's got a drive through. All manner of trouble kicking off. That's quite the miracle though. Roll Hermsen is back to the pit lane. You see with Hjalmar Bergsma, a driver who was previously in a fight in that top 10, has now taken his last pit stop. So he is playing for the long game here, attempting an undercut strategy. You can see plenty of drivers in the pits at the moment. And getting a look on the wider display, plenty more to follow. We see in the pits at the moment then, Rammensperger, Cairns, Barros, Hermsen, of course, we saw before. We also see Cheetos and Bender. Bender to serve that drive-through penalty. The rest coming in for their stop. For Roll Hermsen, this is going to be a lengthy one for that number 5. It could even rack up to minutes spent in the pit lane here. The Audi is adamant to see that checkered flag. Looking upon the state of affairs right now, the most recent updates from Hacker v Evans, and as it would stand, they've gone up a considerable wad of positions, but they'll drop those under strategy. But in terms of their own fight, about 1.3 seconds out, there's little chance here of retaliation. Looking with the 540, chasing Antonio Angeletta. This is a possible scope of 16th place up for grabs here. Wright versus Angeletta, VSR and ARL. As one of the closer fights on track at the moment. Also just getting a glance in with the number 60, I believe there. And that's with looking on with Steve McMillan. Just having got up and around him was the Porsche number 169, Craig Stoddard. Also in the pit lane now, Sean McNally and of course, Roll Hermsen still in the pit lane. We start to see the release then of Rammensperger, Cairns, Barros. Bergsma has already been out for some time. We'll see him climb more positions as into the pits goes McNally and McMillan. We'll go and catch on board here with the Team ARL number 540. Let's go and see if we can find here the Lamborghini of Wright. Chasing down Antonio Angeletta. Now it's a surprising amount of pace that Lamborghini's carrying through Blanchimont. Number 5 has a stop go 30 for speeding in the pit lane, I believe. Is that not for Roll Hermsen? Oh, come on. You can't kick a man whilst he's down. He barely had control of the car. We see into the pit lane, though. Goes right. Brings about an abrupt end then to the fight of 12th. In he goes. Also in the pits then, James Burns. Up in front in the 420 Honda. Rook now 6.4 seconds out from Deesh at the lead of this race. He's still put on a formidable show. It's worth pointing that out there for Ben Rook in the 14. And this is not our first time, I believe, seeing Ben Rook put on a formidable show. He also competed over on the XCL Pro Series for Simplay Racing in the Lamborghini and was a great talent there as well. So it's great to see him reprise that role in the 14 here in the Shooting Stars Cup. He makes his way down through turn 19 and 20 here. Just up in front of him, trying to get out past. That's Konstantinos Chitos in the 44 Race Club UK McLaren. Carlos Deesh, it's worth pointing out, is in the pit lane. So with Deesh being in, that leaves Rook out by his lonesome. We're just past the 30-minute mark. Still plenty of drivers hesitant to come in, but I think this is where we're going to see a large toll of them make their way in. Starting us off then, Matthias Claes, the 442. Into the pit lane he goes. Sant Ludovic on the exit of Blanchemont. Now, plenty of cars coming down to the line. I do spy many of them likely to come into the pit lane then. We saw Claes and Deesh, but as it stands for Sant Ludovic, he stays out. What about Hall? In through turn 19, he's into the pits. Clements, and we see behind him there is Hermsen, who needs to serve a stop-go anyway, so as it would appear, Clements coming in, and same for Hermsen. Martin stays out. What about Hacker and Evans? Already seen plenty of drivers up in front of them come in. Will either of these two call it quits on their current ambitions? The 101's coming in, as it would stand for the 444. Evans stays out. Winnings, and the number 23 VSR Ford. His teammate, and the number 100 Antonio Angeletta in the background. Will either of them come into the pits? The 23 stays out. What about the 100? Same story for Angeletta. So if Deesh currently in the pit lane, we see here from the 54, just drops off of his jacks and is now on his way out. You see for Matthias Claes with the 442 car. It was not long after Deesh into the pit lane. We see rolling through to serve his stop-go is, that's Roll Hermsen. Again, it's such a bitter end to how things have gone for him there. That one slip up through Oruj and Radion, and then just to get the car into the pit lane. And the car was nigh uncontrollable, I'd like to point that out. There's very little he could have done to avoid that stop-go 30. You see emerging then in behind the 100 of Angeletta is the number 54. Dangerously close, mind you, as well to the 100 of Antonio Angeletta. You see going up the inside then Deesh. Making quick work then. His teammates not fighting him on the way through. Now looking into nearby gaps, there is one to consider here. Barros v Cairns. This is for 13th place as it would stand. And that actually upgrades quite a considerable distance as we make our way up through Lacombe and Melmedy. So let's go and catch on board with these drivers then. Namely with the BMWs, if we can. As we see a triple header there of VSR machines. With Ben Bingham, the lapped number 12 Ferrari, being approached there by Carlos Deesh and Antonio Angeletta in the 54 and the 100. So getting on board with Cairns. Chasing down Pedro Barros up in front there. You can see it's Matthias Claes. And we are in a three-way split for 9th place right now. Barros v Claes v Cairns. 2 Simplays versus 1 Race Club UK. It might even be worth getting on board with the McLarens here with Claes in particular. Presently then forced into this defensive scope for 9th place out through Stavolo into the curb of Paul Frere. 25 minutes to the line here. And he's got a lot of company with that Bentley parked in his rear-view mirror. Pedro Barros has got considerable straight-line speed in the Continental. Out through Blanchimont, he can also attack the curbs much harder, so really there's not a great deal that McLaren can do in this section of the track to hold the Bentley off. It's just got to pray it's got enough under the brakes, and that it just about does at turn 19. And out through turn 20, the Bentley's going to have the more aggressive of two lines. Barros looking up and around the outside. Of course, going to have to try and tuck in for it at a slightly more aggressive run of things at turn 1. That he does, and it puts him practically on the rear bumper. Now side by side. Surely he'll not think to go side by side, but I think it is going to be the case up through Eau Rouge and Radion. He's now up and ahead, so it's Matthias Claes who backs out up through Eau Rouge. He's in the dirty air of the Bentley, a dangerous place to be. Out through Radion he goes. His teammate survives as well, so no troubles there. If anything, this has served as a fantastic staging point as we now upgrade to the fight of 6th, with cars recently into the pit lane for some counter-attack by the 442. Going down towards turn 7, he's to the outside, attempting a run around of things here at turn 7, 8 and 9. He's on the inside at turn 8, he's to the outside at turn 9, but I think just far enough ahead to try and stage a fight here with the 185. He holds onto his ground, and Matthias Claes stays in 6th. A great tussle there between himself and Pedro Barros. Right behind him is William Cairns. We are three's company here for this fight of 6th. And we'll go and catch on board just away from the point of view of the McLaren at the forefront of that fight for the BMW tucked in behind, as we also have available the point of view of the Bentley. But on board here with Cairns. Presently hunting down 7th. BMW versus Bentley. Battle of the front engine juggernauts down through to campus. And the approach of the BMW so quickly has put a bit of a wobble there in the stride of the 185. It's dropped some distance away from Claes. So this is all great teamwork from the Simplay boys. They're doing very, very well to try and hold positions inside of that top 10, especially knowing the stakes at hand here. They could move up and ahead of VSR into 2nd in the championship as early as this round. In towards Blanchimont, though, this is where the BMW is struggling to keep with the Bentley. It's a deceptively fast car, one often overlooked in the topic of straight line speed. That's normally a competition that's strictly Ford only. We see into the pit lane there goes the Aston Martin of David Bender for Team ARL. With Antonio Angeletta into the pit lane, this is upgrading then to a fight of 6th place between Barros and Cairns. As now moving into the top 5 goes Claes. Also, with looking at it there in the pit lanes as well, the 444 of Evans. This is soon to be then an upgrade to the fight of 5th. Up through Eau Rouge and Radion, the Beamer's holding tight there. Still in the slipstream on the Bentley, slightly better run through Radion. Keeps it running through Kemmel. Now onto the Kemmel straight out of turn 6. You see, eclipsed there by the monolithic scale of that Bentley. Down towards turn 7 at Lecombe. Close fighting at hand here. 21 minutes left to go in round 2 of the Shooting Stars Cup by Race Club UK. Just getting a quick glance in. What we're seeing here in the trailing moments of this race is some brilliant fighting in that top 5. We saw great side-by-side action a moment ago between Barros and Claes, with Claes still holding position up and ahead of Barros, and now we're seeing a possible attack for a top 5 here by William Cairns with Simplay in the 229. He's made great hustle over the course of this race. It is worth pointing out that he has travelled a fair distance up the field to be within this fight at the top 5. down through to turn 19 and 20. We'll catch on with these guys in a moment's time, but taking a look around the field as we drop in to the last 20 minutes of racing. Right now, the order is as following. Carlos Diesch in the lead of this race with Ben Rook in second. Lars Rammensperger in third place ahead of Matthias Claes in fourth. Pedro Barros in fifth place ahead of William Cairns in sixth place. As we see there for Francois St. Ludovic in seventh, up and ahead of Richard Hall in eighth. Chris Clements ninth. And Hjalmar Bergsma in 10th place. Andre Martins leading the charge for Team ARL. He's in 11th place, up and ahead of Tom Hacker in 12th. Lee Evans 13th and James Burns in 14th. Wish for Winnings 15th with Wright in 16th. Antonio Angeletta in 17th. Nico Prince in 18th with Lewis Perslow 19th. And Nick Lamming rounds out the top 20. The Jackal in 21st ahead of Sean McNally in 22nd. Steve McMillan in 23rd with Roll Hermson 24th. Konstantinos Chitos in 25th ahead of David Bender in 26th. Brett Butler in 27th ahead of Kieran Rod in 28th. And it's worth pointing out both Rod and Oates here, 28th and 29th. Ian Oates yet to have taken their final pit stop, so playing things for the long game here. Ben Bingham in 30th, Craig Stoddard 31st, Alonso Amador 3 laps down, currently in the pit lane from 32nd. Likely a soft DNF coming up then for the 81 after a troubled race for the Ferrari. Closest among the fights on track right now, having a scroll through the entire field, you're looking at it. Cairns v Barros v Claes, a three-way split for fourth. Now, getting a look on board, we followed from either of the other two aspects here, from both the sim play cards. Let's get a look on board with Barros in the 185. And a unique angle here amongst the GT3s. I believe one of the only GT3 cars to be right-hand drive. One of a handful of cars overall in this game to be right-hand drive. One other, as we mentioned several times, is the Ginetta G55 down in GT4. We'll be covering that car a lot more over the course of the summertime with some upcoming projects that we still have yet to fully announce. We are thoroughly looking forward, though, to seeing how all of that unfolds. Of course, for those of you who may have joined us in the last couple of weeks, you'll have noted we covered a special one-off round at Silverstone with the folks over at HCCL, a Ginetta Cup race that served to be a fantastic standpoint to what is now creating somewhat of a new trend in the local community for the Ginetta races. They're on the rise, so get in whilst you still can. I'd like to say then, in 2026 was somewhat of the early investors here on TRTN for the possible future of Ginetta Cup racing on ACC, on the console space, community-led projects. That's a topic for another time. Watching here with Pedro Barros up through Eau Rouge and Radion. You see there a lot of understeer at Radion. You saw the snap there where the back end came light. So we're looking in now. This gives a perfect opportunity over to Cairns. Looking in that rear view, you see the BMW at a fast rate of knots proceeds to the left-hand side, trying to catch on board with the Beamers here. As we go in towards the run of Lacombe and Melmedy, we see for the 229 is forced to tuck back in behind the 185. Watching on board then with Cairns, closer than he's ever been for that fight for the top 5 here in this race. 16.5 minutes to go, coming up on the last quarter hour of racing here in Spa. Seems then that Cairns has been able to distract Barros long enough to allow for that diversion for his teammate Claes to move some 1.6 seconds up the road off of the Bentley, 1.9 seconds from Cairns himself. The run through Blanchimont then, down through turn 18 into turn 19 and 20. The BMW very close then to the back end of the Bentley. In through to the bus stop chicane we go between Cairns and Barros. What we're looking to be a very close fight to the end of this race for 5th place between BMW and Bentley. In that last lap, we saw faster by about, looking at it there, 0.4 of a second was Cairns. Out through turn 1 at La Source. We saw this was an area of concern in the last lap for Barros, and it was understeer to be of concern to him this time. And again, you can see the hesitancy in the Bentley. It's losing a lot of time up through Eau Rouge and Radion. It's what's allowing the BMW to get closer and closer on the Camel every single lap. Eventually, something's going to give. It's a ticking time bomb that Bentley finds itself in, hoping the BMW runs itself out of steam, really, when it comes to that fight. Those tyres are eventually going to burn up under the stresses that they're under here in Spa. It is a tyre killer track. A lot of long sweeping corners. The tyres are under a lot of stress over the course of that lap. There's not a great deal of time for them to be able to relax and lose some of that heat. Taking a look on a wider display here, just to get a scope of some of the other possible fights in progress. Andre Martins and Jelmer Bergsma one to consider. 8/10 apart there. The BMW chasing down the Aston Martin for 10th place. Just back on board here with Cairns v Barros as we see a bit of a step out as we re-engage here with this fight for 5th. Out through the Kerber Paul Frere. Another fight to possibly consider at this time. Just having a glance back through the field. Jackal v McNally, 9/10 of a second, but this is still one of the closest, if not the closest, on track right now on the exit of Blanchimont, in towards the bus stop chicane. 13 minutes left to go. Each of these laps then for these drivers now in the trailing end of this race, a grueling reminder of the amount of distance they still have to cover before the race is out. These drivers here, having crossed the line, they're looking, had it been them leading the race, at about 6 or so more laps. The 54 up the road marking the race lead as it stands then. That's for Carlos Disch with Team VSR. I think we're closer in the prospect of probably 7 laps, with the overlap giving us the 7th off of what will normally be 6. We see that huge swap up from the run out of Eau Rouge and Radio, and I said at some point something's got to give, and that was it. Now the angles weren't super revealing, but we saw a slower run, and actually there almost was a big slide out for him on the exit of Eau Rouge and Radio. I think if we try and pause the footage at the right time, we'll get a closer look here from Barros' point of view. We see was it that there, or was it? I'm not entirely clear then. I think it had to have been up through the compression on the run uphill. I couldn't think of anywhere else where that would have been a major issue for Pedro Barros with Bentley. Nonetheless, he does drop out of 5th. Rather uneventful fashion there. We were hoping they would be able to run that all the way to the line. There is still the chance that they can, but definitely not the way he'd like that fight to end. You see here one possible fight slowly emerging. Now, not too much to comment on yet here, but it's James Burns versus Wishful Winnings. We're seeing that gap start to will down between the pair. Hang on just a tick. Yellow flags out in front, but for who? Who might that be? It's the 450. It's right. In trouble. Just out through turn 11 in towards turn 12. Was trouble there for Wright. He's gone back up and running, so we're back in a green flag conditions here for the last 10 minutes of racing. We see here an exchange of position. Jelmer Bergsma up and ahead of Steve McMillan. Konstantinos Chitos possibly looking to intercept here, so we'll stay on board with McMillan. Chitos closer hand behind there, the number 44. We're on with the number 60. Bit of oversteer there on exit of turn 20. Formidable sound there from that engine. through La Source. This is where things could tighten up between the pair. We see McLaren still in pursuit of things. Now, one thing to consider among these fights right now is on that run up through Eau Rouge and Radion, there's a lot of dirty air being generated in behind. So for the trailing car, it does prove to be quite a lot of trouble, as we see there, for Cheetos having to cut off of Radion to avoid the car just stepping away from him and clattering a wall flat out. We see looking up the inside then, Cheetos on McMillan. McMillan holding the outside in towards turn 7. Isn't looking to fight too hard on this one. The number 44 goes up and around the outside. He's hoping that he would have run himself aground in his attempts to get around him, but no, up and ahead goes Cheetos on McMillan. McMillan still holding on though, on the run down towards turn 10. Catch on with him at the end of the race. 9 minutes left to go then. We see in the pit lane at the moment, this is Butler in the 450. So it's not, it wasn't, sorry, I was thinking of the 540, which was right. It's Butler that was in trouble down at turn 12. See here with Cairns' point of view. He's just under 2 seconds away from his teammate, Matthias Claes, and is faster than him by nearly a full second in the last lap just gone. Still looming in the distance there, the Bentley of Pedro Barros on our way out through turn 1. 1.2 seconds away from the BMW as it would stand, so one good run out of Eau Rouge and Radion could be more than enough to put Barros back in that fight for a top 5 finish. Up through Eau Rouge and Radion we go then. We're on board with William Cairns. Bentley's still in the distance there. He's not going anywhere. Out through turn 6. So looking again for nearby fights. Now, one of the closest among them was, again, the consideration between Cairns and Barros. This is Barros now on a counter-attack after having lost the position through Eau Rouge and Radion. There's also Burns v Winnings. Now, we reported on this earlier on, and we said to keep an eye on this one, and for good reason. Going back on board then to the point of view of the Mustang of Wishful Winnings, heading down through Eau Rouge and Radion. This is his fight for 14th place on board then. Burns in sight then on the exit of turn 6. V6 versus V8. Honda versus Ford on the run down the Kemmel Straight here. You see the Honda moving over to one side. He's holding the inside line down through to turn 7, hoping that Wishful Winnings runs out of ground, but he just manages there to go later on the brakes. Has to cut over a little bit there of Lecombe and keeps the door open for contact inadvertently between himself and the 420. Burns rejoins the field, and it's Wright that's right behind him in the 540 that just swings through and takes 15th right off his hands. Up the inside then goes the Lamborghini. Six minutes then left to go in this race. Having started his about 36 seconds ago, that would make roughly about 6 minutes 40 odd. Doing the rough maths in our head there, that's about 3, and I think with the overlap that makes 4 laps. Don't quote me on that one because again, maths never a strong suit here on TRTN. So again, looking to the field to see nearest fights. Now there was that one for Burns, Wright and Winnings, with Winnings now leading in that fight for 14th. Wright looking to take up the slack from 15th place. That could be a future fight to the checkered flag here. There's also some considerations on Cairns v Claes, 1.4 seconds, and they've hovered around that mark for some time. There's also Hacker v Evans, which is around 1.071 at its last interval, with the Nissan clearly showing signs that it's gaining ground. We can see the gap starting to dwindle between the pair. Across the line they go. And it's now only 9/10 of a second for Hacker v Evans. Now, the most recent intervals for Cairns and Clays, that was 1.157, but with that run out of turn 11, that's going to put a bit of a damper on it. Meanwhile, the 81, yellow flags out again, as it would appear. Trying to catch on board with the Ferrari there. That's Alonso Amador with Team ARL. And it looks like, is it steering damage for him? Not this time around, but he is quite dinged up there between turns 11 and 12. Now, going to catch on board with the fight as it would stand between Hacker and Evans. Ones to watch then. On board with VSR's Lee Evans. Tom Hacker defending 12th place away. Meanwhile, number 60 now brings out the yellow flags. This is on the run through Lacombe and Melmedy as it would stand. We'll see whether or not that case elevates, as it would appear they've got back up and running, so nothing to report from that point onwards. You see, for Evans, he is struggling now, as we've just caught on board with him to keep wind with the Mustang in front of him. We'll go to catch on board from the other side of things. We just quickly see there with lambing up over Arouge and Radion. Getting a look in towards the point of view from the Mustang's side of things. We just scroll through the McLarens quickly as we're doing effectively what is a bit of window shopping, as we see the fight here for 14th still in progress. This is between Wright and Winnings as we approach the final couple of laps of this race today. Now, going to look on board with the Mustangs. On with Tom Hacker, we see here, this is in the fight for 12th place. Now from the defending angle, out through turns 19 and 20. In that last lap was about 3/10 slower than Evans. So there is evidence to suggest that Evans is on track here to possibly get 12th place, but he has got very little time to actually execute on those ideas. The run out through turn 2, we're still on board with Tom Hacker. We follow him up through Eau Rouge and Radion, what is slowly forming up to be these last couple of laps worth of a fight for 12th. Evans still hot on his trails there out through turn 6 onto the Kemmel. It's a very likely possibility that this could boil over into a last lap dash between the 444 and the 101. As you've heard, the 54's on its final lap, so we'll not be long from seeing Carlos Diaz to the checkered flag in about roughly 2 minutes' time. As we watch here with bated breath to see what goes on between Hacker and Evans, one of the final fights of today here in round 2 of the Shooting Stars Cup by Race Club UK. Out through Pouon here in the fight for 12th place. Tom Hacker versus Lee Evans. Race Club UK versus Team VSR. Now just getting a quick glance in here with the teams, sort of the spread of the teams at the moment. We are going to see quite a considerable points tally increase there for Simplay Motorsports. They've got the majority of drivers in that top 10. So this is going to be a huge points haul coming their way. They could very well surpass VSR in the standings. Even in spite of the fact that, so it would appear, not long from now, VSR will continue to hold on to a 100% win rate as a team, yet only find themselves possibly third after this round today. Now, we'll come to see how all of that stacks up when we go live for the next event for Brands Hatch in a few weeks' time. But as we see here with Hacker and Evans, they're on their way onto their final lap. Will not be long getting on board then with the 54. Now, just getting a look in here with another fight, and that's Clayson Cairns. They swiftly left behind Barros. They're 3.2 seconds now behind the 229 BMW. And this is their last lap. This is their last opportunity to make these moves count. So if Cairns really badly wants that 4th place, he has got to fight for it tooth and nail now, because now or never here in Spa. Getting a look on board, though, with Carlos Diaz making his way around Blanchimont then for the last time today here in round 2 of the championship. It has been a formidable drive by the number 54, and it looks like as he makes his way down towards turn 19 and 20, VSR will hold on to their winning streak, set in stone by Fake Galaxy in Imola. It's Carlos Dish to the line here at the end of round 2, sees the checkered flag to win in Spa.
The leader has finished the race.
A brilliant drive by the 54, make no mistake of that one. Not a foot wrong on his fight there. Great fighting throughout. Ben Rook sees second place. A valiant return to the podium there for the number 14. Lars Rammensperger is about to see the checkered flag third among the fray. And I believe for Rammensperger, having a quick glance in on those results, this is his highest result of the season thus far. Just in behind him, the two Simplay cars of Claes and Cairns making their way out through Blanchimont. Just seeing in him here with Lars Rammensperger. Precise driving throughout here from the 51. He's done a very, very good job of that one there. Race Club UK see a podium in this race to the line. Cross the line they go. Divided by next to nothing. Claes and Cairns 4th and 5th. Pedro Barros for Race Club UK in 6th. We see Francois St. Ludovic for 7th. Richard Hall not far behind there. 1.8 seconds to 8th place. Clements to the line. As it would stand, even after a rocky race for the Americas Racing League, it'll be Andre Martins by looks of things here to take a top 10 finish for the team. The ARL number 404 BMW sees the checkered flag in 10th place. Now, just quickly getting a glance in on this fight here. It's just up in front. Jelmer Bergsma sees 11th place as he reaches the checkered flag. Tom Hacker and Lee Evans down to the line here. Now, unlikely for there to be any more fighting between the pair. They cap things off here, 12th and 13th for the 101 and the 444. Great fighting between the pair. Wishful winnings to the line for 14th place, up and ahead of Wright. Wright had a bit of a rough race here today. And the 540 still finishes inside of the top 15. James Burns to the line, 16th place. Antonio Angeletta, as he would stand then, looking at 17th. We'll get a full read of the results in a moment's time. The bottom line, though, Carlos Dish celebrates with Ben Rook and Lars Rammensperger. Our 3 podium sitters, the 54, victorious here in Spa. You see in the foreground there further jubilations by what looks to be Jelmer Bergsma and one of the VSR Nissans. That's the 444 of Lee Evans. Joy and jubilations for the VSR team. They keep their winning streak running then. Fake Galaxy won in Imola, and it's Carlos Dish to win here in Spa. Ben Rook sees a very confident P2, bringing a heavy points tally in along with many of his contemporaries at the Simplay team to possibly shove them up to second in the team's championship. Getting a look then at the total results, then Carlos Dish wins in Spa, Ben Rook second, Lars Rammensperger in third, Matthias Claes in fourth, and William Cairns rounds out the top 5. Then from 6th to 10th we have Barros, St. Ludovic, Hall, Clements and Martins. From 11th to 20th we have Bergsma, Hacker, Evans, Winnings, Wright, Burns, Angeletta, Prince, Perslow and Lamming. From 21st to 30th, we have Jackal, Hermson, McNally, Cheetos, McMillan, Bender, Rod, Stoddard, Oates and Bingham. And then we see the run of our DNFs there. Butler, Amador, McGowan, Betterson, Dominguez and Bosworth. I believe those two actually DNSs in this race. Now, getting a scope as to where we're off to next with this championship and where might we still be seeing fighting in this series. Taking a look onto the calendar with round 2 complete today, our next opportunity to get on with these guys here for the Shooting Stars Cup by Race Club UK is on April 18th, 2026 at around 8 o'clock, I believe BST it's going to be, and that's going to be over at Brands Hatch, a fantastic duel on the British Motorsports itinerary. I am thoroughly looking forward to that one as the penultimate round of the championship. Then May 16th is when we'll see the final round, race 4 at the Mount Panorama circuit. That is one all of these drivers are going to be fearing from now until May. Until then, that's all from us here on TRTN. For those of you tuning in on YouTube, you'll note as well in the description the Just Giving link, and if you're tuning in on Twitch, you'll see it back in the Twitch chat just now for the Shooting Stars Cup. Of course, this event is in charity for the Shooting Stars Children's Hospice, a wonderful, wonderful charity. They've presently raised £600 over the course of this championship so far. We're halfway through and still 60% of the way to our current fundraiser goal of £1,000 sterling. So do give that a check out. We'll see you next with this championship on April 18th. For those of you tuning in for more events from us here on TRTN, our next event is tomorrow at 6:30 BST. We go live for the next round of the NLRL Sunday League in Season 5. That's all from us here. That rounds things out here on Saturday. A busy, busy week for us so far. And coming into our 8th event of the week tomorrow. We'll be seeing you then at the Sunday League. Until then, that's all from us here. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. Take care. Good night.